Good evening. I'm Andrew Richmond, one of Harold's sons. My father can no longer help us to the other side of complexity. Luckily, he was willing to submit himself to 2 sets of interviews last summer, one with me in our home and one by a professional working for a youth center that his work helped create. We'd like to share a few clips of these interviews with you in which he discusses, in characteristically simple terms, topics relevant to the themes of this award and this week. He reflects on his work, domestic and abroad, making change, leadership, his fellowship year, and the vision that drove his work.
When you look to see how policies were set in Illinois relative to children, what you saw was an adversarial relationship between the government that wanted to save money and social agencies that were serving kids that needed the money. The battle was always between the professional agencies and the government over money, over jurisdiction, and the voice of the kids wasn't present. So you had interests fighting each other over kids. There was very little good knowledge, facts, understanding about what the situation was of kids. So you had policy being made out of this adversarial relationship and basically out of anecdote because there was no good information. I thought that that was not the best way to deal on behalf of kids, and it wasn't good public policy, and it wasn't good government. So I talked to the governor about trying to do something about doing better analysis, better understanding, so we might get better policies and better practices. And he was tremendously cooperative. I started a little project to try and understand what was going on with kids in Illinois. And out of that project, several years later, we had the opportunity to actually create a little institutional form to do this work, and that was how Chapin Hall got started. In countries that were undergoing rapid social change, where the change had an opportunity to be sustained, that it would be, in the long run, the children who would be sustaining the change, and that during periods of change, children often didn't get sufficient attention. So it was the idea of, in places undergoing rapid social change, to pay extra attention to the kids so that they would be well equipped to actually maintain the change when they got older.
I think what we missed is very strong leadership, because I think there may be a reservoir of willingness, but it isn't going to come forward without being called on. And we have not. Kennedy and the War on Poverty began to do that. As one would guess, got derailed by a reaction. But if Vietnam hadn't happened, it might have been quite different. And since then, we have not had a strong American leader who has called on the better part of ourselves to make this a more forthcoming and generous society towards the people who need it. By and large, I've advised the college students who I had in my classes who have asked that question to get themselves into a position for a year or two where they're just a plain old state or city child welfare caseworker. To understand, to get a visceral understanding of two things. One, what people are experiencing in the way of whether it's poverty or deprivation or poor social situation, and to understand how we as a society respond. And the best way to do that is to be an agent of the society, to work as a public welfare caseworker or a child welfare caseworker, and be able to deal with somebody who's in rather bad straits and say, here's what we do for you. When you get up close and see what people are experiencing, and then are the agent of help to them, and you realize what it is you have available to bring to bear on the situation, you begin to understand, really understand what our social welfare policies are all about. And I think there's no way to experience that without living it. So that's my first recommendation. And my second is to be dissatisfied about what you see and commit yourself to trying to do something about it. And once you've internalized that, then get to work in whatever way or whatever level you're comfortable with, in politics, in academics, in a bureaucratic job, make a lot of money and use your money well, all different kinds of ways to do it. But if you don't have that fundamental understanding and commitment, then you're just playing around the edges.